Hi, my name's Dottie Grover, and you're here today watching One Voice at a Time. This is a show we do at Londonderry Access Center to give people a voice on what's important to them and to interview interesting people and see if maybe what they're doing would be of interest to you. Today we have a very special guest. I believe this person has been at his job about as long as I was in public access television, and for some reason we've never sat together in front of a camera before. But for those of you who don't know, I would like to introduce you to Al Kaprielian. Al is the New Hampshire weatherman. He's been on one channel for a very long time, but he's New Hampshire's weatherman, and everybody knows that. And today I would like to congratulate him. It is his 30th anniversary as a weatherman. And I would also like to have him tell you how this all came about. So I'm thinking we'll start off kind of like, a Dickens story. I was born. Were you born with an umbrella?
Well, I became interested in the weather, Dottie, at an early age. I grew up in Natick, Massachusetts, and I used to give the weather to the homeroom 6th grade class. And, I couldn't read weather maps then.
And how old were you then?
Elementary school, probably under 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was an early age.
Yeah.
And I can't say what made me become interested in weather. It was probably a fascination with storms, snowstorms, hurricanes, thunderstorms, heat waves.
Were you always the kid that ran out in the rainstorm when your mother was like, it's thunder and lightning?
Pretty much, yeah. And looking out during a snowstorm, and I think it was just fascinating about the atmosphere and how it works.
Yep. And so you started in elementary school.
And I used to give the weather back. Well, then it was junior high and high school. And then I attended Linden State College.
And was that like over the public announcement in the mornings, or how did you do
basically I would do it with I would get up in front of the homeroom class in 6th grade and just present the weather on the blackboard.
Okay.
So that would be like every morning.
Yeah.
Before we started the day.
Before you start school. Okay, that's great. So instead of just morning announcements, they also knew what the weather was.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
And then people used to ask me in middle school and high school what the weather.
They knew you knew what you're doing.
But since I've worked in New Hampshire, I've gone back to a few high school reunions, and I just want to tell all of our viewers that my high school graduates would say, that classmates, that I was one of the only few at that age that knew, that stuck to doing what they said they were going to do. So
yeah, that's unusual. A lot of times kids go into college thinking they know what they're going to be when they grow up, and they change 100 times before they graduate. So that is interesting that you knew right away.
Right away.
That's great. So now how did you decide what school you were going to go to?
Well, I looked. I had the guidance counselor helped at high school, and I wanted to stay in New England. I didn't want to go travel too far.
Okay.
And we came up with Linden State College, which I just went this
the reunion.
past September.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the school is really growing up there.
Yeah.
They have
and did they remember you?
They remembered me, yes.
I bet they did. Yeah.
And I went up there this past September, so it was a great weekend.
Yeah.
Not many just a small handful from my class of '83 showed up, but people have moved away. But I'm sure they're busy with families. And So I went up there, and that's where it started. Before coming to Derry, I did some TV up there my senior year.
Oh, okay. Now was that like on a public access situation,
well, it's
or
still
local TV?
Well, it's a channel. I think it's Channel 7 now. It was Linden Interactive Communications back then.
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
changed.
Okay.
I think it's News 7 now.
Yeah.
So I did that my senior year, and I made some tapes. So
Okay.
I didn't know I was going to go into TV when I first started college, but I said, let me try out my fall semester senior year. So they picked about 10 of us. We all had to audition. And then the communications professors picked, and I was one of the ones chosen. So.
Terrific. That's great. So that's how you decided on TV. You tried it out, and it worked for you.
Yes.
Because I was going to ask you that. So did you ever do anything in radio?
I've done some I still do some radio and TV broadcasting. Now. Not every student that goes to Linden State goes into broadcasting. They've added the National Weather Service. There's private industry. There's
they need
research.
people there. Yeah. So now that was your goal. You were just going to be out there with the people, telling them what's going to happen today.
Yes, and I like doing TV up there, and I wanted to pursue it after college.
So what was your first job?
This was my first job in Derry.
In Derry, okay. And what were they in Derry at that time?
That was WNDS.
WNDS.
It was a news station, CTV of Derry Incorporated.
Okay.
I know I'm talking back then.
That's okay, I remember.
And I applied in July of 1983, and I started working there in August. And I worked a month, and I commuted from Massachusetts
Yeah.
They didn't want me to live up there when they went on the air Labor
Well,
Day.
yeah, we don't want you stuck in
Yes,
Massachusetts
that's right.
during a snowstorm.
So now I'm a New Hampshire resident since then.
Since then, okay.
Since 1983.
So you're almost a New Hampshireite. Almost. A few more
Almost.
years.
Anyway, so
Now,
that's-
you worked there for how many years
I was
before they sold?
well. The WNDS was sold in '04, and then there was a layoff in '09.
Okay.
So it was about 8 of us
Okay.
laid off at the end of.
But wasn't there something that happened?
There
like
was
back in
a
the
home
early
shop,
90s?
home shopping, and the deal
That
fell
was it.
through.
It
That was
fell
in
through. Yep.
'97. They
Yep.
last like April to June,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
by
And
July
if I remember, they let you go. Okay.
they weren't sure what they were going to do.
They didn't know what they were going to do, but they certainly found out that that was a mistake to let you go. I remember this in particular because there was a young man who was working in public
I know
access
who you're talking
when we
about.
were located over at the high school. He had his own show called Hockey Talk.
Yeah.
And he definitely looked at you as a mentor for being on television and doing that sort of thing. And he was devastated
Yeah.
when they let you go. So I believe he was like 15 or 16 at the time, and he started a petition. And he got, I don't even remember how many hundreds of signatures that he got on this petition, brought them over to WNDS, the location, whatever they were calling themselves at that time, and said, you've made a mistake, you need to get this guy back, and you came back. You came back, so that was terrific. And
Well, the home shopping failed. They failed.
that too,
and
but
it
they would have brought you back anyway.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it reverted back to WNDS
Yeah.
that summer.
And then the next change,
Well, the next change was '04. The
Okay.
owners decided to sell the station,
Mm-hmm.
and their siblings didn't want to run it, so it was sold to WZMY Shooting Star.
ZMY, that was
and
it,
then
okay.
it was sold again in May of 2011.
okay. Well, what I know is that whenever they've changed their formats over there and decided that they didn't need Al Kaprielian weatherman, they've quickly found out that they do need Al Kaprielian weatherman because everybody counts on you. I have heard, I can't prove it because I don't know anything about meteorology, but I have heard from many people who say that you're the one to go to if you want to know what's really going to happen over the week because you get the most accurate forecasts.
Thank you.
Well, and we do know that your profession is the one where you can be wrong all the time and
That's-
still have a job.
that's right.
So I'm glad that you do it the proper way and you give us a good idea of what's coming up in the week. So now, I know that you've been involved in a lot of different things, and I would be very surprised if you had not inspired a number of youngsters to maybe go into the same field, because I can remember when my daughter was in elementary school, that you were going to the elementary schools and talking to the kids. Now, is that something that you enjoy doing?
Yes, that comes with and all your schools with charities. I've done a lot with charity groups.
You have, yeah, your
and
heart's up
it's
there.
being out in the community, being
Yeah.
a TV meteorologist.
Yeah.
That comes with
Yeah.
the job.
So have you run into any up-and-coming weathermen or weatherwomen?
Well,
Or do
actually,
we call them weather people?
actually, I have somebody that was a weather watcher for me in Massachusetts. He's
Uh-huh.
up at Linden State for communication, so I got him to go to the school.
Okay,
He loves it up
okay.
there.
So you've mentored one promising student.
Mm.
That's great. And I'm sure there are others. I know that people can get very excited when they actually can look up at the sky and have
Yeah.
a clue. I can't even remember the kinds of clouds we
Mm.
have, but I know that I was taught that in school and it didn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet if you had been in my class and given your
Well, Linden's
talk,
one
it
of the
would
big
have-
schools in the Northeast starting for meteorology, and
Yeah.
TV it has a great TV program too. They do a newscast every night, I think 5:30 to 6, so News 7.
yeah.
So it gets students' feet wet, before they get out into the working
And that's
world.
what you need to do.
Yeah.
You just got to get in front of that
Yeah.
camera and try it out and get your feet under you, basically. Yeah. So now, with living in New England, is there any place else where you would rather live to get a variety of weather? I
would
mean, we
probably
got to
s-
keep you guessing
I
up here.
probably would say New England's, but we
Yeah.
have the 4 seasons,
yeah, yeah.
If you
There's
lived in the
always something
Bahamas, it's
exciting.
summer all year,
Yeah, the
you
sun's
have to-
going to shine. Yeah, you're not going to be 99% of the time. You'll definitely be
New
right.
England's a tough place because the ocean plays a big
Yeah.
part in our weather too.
Now, how, without getting like too technical so we can't
Yeah.
understand it, but how do you, I've always tried to figure that out, how do you actually predict what's
we have
going to be happening?
we have computer models, Dolly, that we look at to predict the weather.
That's now. Did you have that when you started?
Well, we did have models. We had different models. We had one of
Okay.
them was terminated after the blizzard of '78. They got because the model didn't predict all that, so people never got home from work. If you remember that, they were stuck on the ramps on
I remember.
128.
Yeah.
But I will say our computer models are not perfect because there is a lack of, we don't have a weather service in every town, every state, and there's still a lack of data
Right.
over the ocean. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like it's still an inexact science, but the models. I will tell all of you, our viewers and yourself, that the models have improved since even the blizzard of '78. They're not.
Okay.
There's still a margin of error, but they have. And our lead times for severe weather out in Oklahoma, the lead times have been improving too over the past many years.
Okay, so next big storm, we should get home in time.
That's
If we listen.
that's
if we
right.
Pay attention.
That's.
Yeah, yeah. So now, there still must be a lot to how you analyze that information, though, because don't you have more than one
There's a lot of computer
model that you're
models.
gonna look
There's a
at?
lot of computer models that we have to, and they're all different. They all have different mathematical programs, so they can differ on the storm's track intensity and speed.
Okay.
So
So you
that's
have
the difficult part.
Yeah, you still have to take all that
Interpret it.
information and interpret it, exactly. And you're interpreting it accurately
Okay.
most of the time. So how, are you gonna tell the other weathermen what your secret is?
Well, we all look at the same data. It's just,
I know.
It's just the way everyone interprets things different. You're
Okay.
all gonna give 10 meteorologists the same data, and you may get different, slightly altered forecasts because one's seeing, the other one may not think that's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know the last time I listened to a weatherman that wasn't you, I ended up in torrential downpours up north.
Okay.
So I'll be listening to you for sure if I'm going to take any trips up north. But now, what I know we just mentioned a little bit ago that you got involved in some charity work and things like that, and I know that one of the times when you and I were together is we both got thrown in jail.
I remember
that?
It was either muscular dystrophy, I think.
I think that might have been it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we both got that jail sentence, and we had to find people
Yeah.
to bail us out. And luckily, both of us were able to raise the funds to bail ourselves out. But that's one of the things that I know you've done. And can you tell us about some of the other ones?
Well, every November we go up to Concord, and again this year I'll be judging the Festival of Trees up at the Shriners on
Fantastic.
And I'm involved with the breast cancer walk in October in Nashua, so I go to that event.
Yeah, yeah. Now, are you walking or are you?
Well, I
there
give
as a
out the
celebrity?
survivors. I give out carnations or whatever.
Oh,
I'm
that's
there,
great.
so
Yeah,
I've been doing
that's
that for a
great.
while.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so those are the big, the Derry Christmas Parade too.
Yeah.
That's always been I just judged the Hamptons Beach Seafood Festival, so I'm at that.
That must have been tough.
That's well. But,
That's a hard one.
But back in 2004 and 5, I was involved in the Central New Hampshire Heart Walk. I was the top fundraiser in 2005.
Fantastic. That's
So-
great. That's great. I know you've done a lot for the people of New Hampshire other than just give us accurate weather.
Well,
and it's much appreciated.
thank you.
It really is. Now, one of the other things that I know you've done is you've tried to keep yourself out there so that when we do have these changes and people are trying to decide what they're going to do with the station, you're still around. Because when I was the director here at the Londonderry Access Center, and you had been laid off temporarily, I had a lady from Salem who
I think
called
I-
me.
I-
I'm sure you know.
I think I know who you.
Called me almost every
Yeah, she was
single
very
day,
upset.
very upset that she could not find you. And then when I told her, wait a minute, I found out that you were actually doing the weather with the Manchester Public Access, who was putting it out so that the rest of us could pick that up. And she was much happier after that. But she must have been delirious when you went back full time.
I think she was watching so often, and all of a sudden I'm gone. It was.
And well, that just shows how people identify with you and connect with you, and what a successful weatherman you are and a person. Now, what going forward? What do you see for yourself? I mean,
Probably more of the same. I probably work the rest of my life in New England.
Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
to stay in meteorology.
stay on television,
Yeah.
stay in the area. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Any?
Because I don't want to start, another part of the country. You have to start over again. And at our
Everybody
ages,
knows you here.
That's right.
What do they know you for?
I think hi, good evening.
That's
I
it.
think
That's
the
the number one
enthusiasm,
thing.
but I
Yep.
am
It
sincere
is
about the weather.
It is the enthusiasm.
Yes, and
That's
sincerity,
exactly
too.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
And plus, I am a modest person. A lot of people, you see celebrities, they may not talk because they have big
Yep.
egos. I
Yep.
will say I just because I'm a celebrity, I don't, follow
You're not
that.
like that at all, because
No.
I have met you outside of,
Yeah,
of these roles, and you regular people, which is very good. We like that a lot. So, now you're living in Nashua
I'm
now,
in
I believe?
Merrimack
In
now.
Merrimack now, okay.
I moved in
And-
2000 from Derry.
Okay,
So it's,
okay. And
that's why the breast cancer in Nash is Greeley. It's not
It's
even that
so
far. It's right down.
close.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like 15 minutes.
Okay.
So it's,
Yeah.
I get around.
so Merrimack, let's see, what's coming up next? Rib Fest?
Well, yeah, I didn't go. That was this year. I didn't get to that.
They
this-
already had Rib Fest
Yeah,
this
that
year?
was already. Yeah, I think it's early, more in the summer.
In
I
the
think
summer?
it's August,
okay,
I believe.
okay. You'll have to see if you can't get to judge something in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Well, the
like it'd be a
Hampton
real
Beach one I've
trial.
been doing for a while. So.
Uh-huh, yeah, yeah. Are there any other charities that you think you might like to get involved with, or that type of thing?
Well, I also did some of the walks, the cancer walk in June. I've done that, walks
Yeah.
around the track.
Yeah.
Been involved in that too.
Sounds like you're always doing something
Always.
else. Always doing
March of
something.
Dimes, I think, at Hampton Beach. I think even diabetes, I did some fun. I think you and me would lock up, and that was muscular dystrophy.
Yeah, I think that was muscular
Yeah.
dystrophy. Yeah, yeah. First time I'd ever been thrown in jail.
Yeah,
So I
it
was
was for a
I-
great cause, though.
It was for a good cause. You're absolutely right.
But I think
Yeah.
that's what I want to tell you. You know, being a TV meteorologist, that's something. I tell students, if you want to do TV and don't work in the community, then don't go into TV, because it's more
Yeah.
than just going to the station doing the weather.
It is. It really is. You have to get out there and get involved with the community.
That's how people are going to know you too, is
Yep,
getting out
that's
there.
right. Yep,
Right? You-
that's how it goes. Get your face out there and let people know who you are and what you stand for. And I think that's something you've done very well at. Now it's interesting that you say that, because at other stations, okay, you have the weather people who kind of come and go, and sometimes they're weather people and sometimes they are meteorologists. You're a meteorologist, correct?
Yes, because you need 4 years of college to be a
Right, but there are a number of people that can sometimes get on broadcast, especially it
Oh, their
seems.
morning shows.
They're
Good Mo-
just like weather people. They just come in and.
If you watch Good Morning America, the Today,
Uh-huh.
they have somebody behind the scenes preparing all the weather.
Yeah, so just kind of read it off the prompter.
But if you can speak well, I guess that's what they manage.
Yeah.
They're just broadcasting. They're weathermen. They're not
Yeah,
meteorologists. But you have somebody prepared. The maps they're showing is being
and you
prepared
just
by.
have to remember where to stand when you're looking at something
That's
you can't
right.
really see on a
That's
green
right.
screen. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. Now, what advice would you give someone now if they decided that they wanted to get into television as a meteorologist versus a weather
Well,
person?
I know we're on a Londonderry. If students in Londonderry, Washington, even from elementary all the way through middle school.
Yeah.
If we have high school, all three of those grades, elementary, middle school, high school, math.
Yeah.
I
Math.
can't stress it.
Okay.
Math is very important, because if you go into research, you do need a master's degree, 4 years, and that's why you have.
Uh-huh.
So
So math is the big thing.
for a student watching, a parent,
yeah.
relative, if your child wants to go into meteorology, they really need, even below the 6th grade, from 3rd, 4th grade,
Right on
you got to
up.
start.
Yeah.
And the only way you work with math is every day to do it. 7 days. It's a
Makes-
job in itself.
Yeah, it makes sense when you say it, but at first I would have been thinking science. But
Well, if you have
I
two
can see
students in high
where-
school watching, one's doing good in math, one isn't. You know,
Yeah.
if the other person's good, can do it. If they stay motivated, you just have to work harder and get help.
yeah, yeah,
And if you miss a day of school, anyone watching from school, you got to get that help. You know,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you go back next day, you got to get all the work and make sure you understand it. Because if I'm a teacher, you're a man, we're going to keep moving on. So if a student doesn't understand it, Monday,
they're
today's.
gonna miss it.
They didn't
Yeah,
understand it
yeah,
yesterday. You're not gonna.
Yeah.
The teacher's gonna keep moving on. It's your responsibility to get help.
That's a good point, because I think that a lot of kids don't necessarily understand how things
Keep up with the
build.
homework.
Yeah.
I know my calculus teacher, I had the same for calculus 1, 2, and 3. He'd look and see some professors, maybe even high school here, they don't collect the homework. It's up to the students,
Yeah.
they'll look at it, they'll walk down the
Yeah,
rows.
yeah, or you trade
You're on
with
your
the
own.
person next to you, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, math is a big thing if you
Yeah,
decide that you wanna go.
math is one of the
Yeah.
big dotty, and because you have even in physics, and you have to take statistics, and not intro, but you have to take the calculus,
Yeah.
the base in your statistics class too, which is business majors take the intro, which there's really no calculus, but if you go into and I believe for the weather service, I never took this differential equations as required. Because
okay.
in Linden, there's different branches. The NWS, I think they require.
It sounds like that's definitely the place to go in this area, though.
Linden's one of the tops
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Northeast,
yeah.
especially because they do that newscast you get news, you have the anchor talking like you, and then you have I don't know if they have sports, well, news and weather
So
at
they're
least.
actually doing
It's going out over the every week.
Newscast every morning. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And they have graphics now. When I was there, it was magic marker.
Ah, yeah.
So things have, and it's even chroma keyed there now. The wall, when I went up this year, I saw, I went down to the TV
Got to see
station.
all the improvements.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's improved, but it's chroma keyed there, and they're working with the graphics.
Fantastic.
But times have changed. The computers.
Oh, they have.
When I was, back when I first started station, I had a marine fax, and phone company was on because it was all facsimile and with
Yes.
phone lines. So I had this.
Yeah.
Some days you'd go in, there'd be no maps because the interference.
yeah.
It was like you take on a ship.
Yeah.
So,
that's
but
funny.
now everything's on the intercom.
Yeah, a little more dependable. That's
And you
good
don't
to
waste
know.
all that fax paper because there'd be rolls and rolls of paper.
Oh, yeah, there were. Yeah. No, that's fun. So, with somebody becoming a meteorologist, and so you went kind of quickly through what they can get into from learning all of that information. So, can we a little bit more slowly? Can we talk about what different fields they can choose if they go down that road?
Well, if you go into the National Weather Service, you can apply. You probably go outside of New England.
Okay,
You can
and
get
if
a
that with the New England Weather Service or something like that, what would they be really working on?
Well, you would put out severe weather statements with the storm, the watch, write the
Watches and the
discussions,
warnings.
the forecast discussions, and
Okay,
you would be working in the office.
so they may be looking at things a bit more detailed than when it
Yeah, I
comes
think
to
for the Weather
review,
Service,
or-
you have to go. There's some additional training at the Storm Prediction
Okay.
Center. SPC is in Norman, Oklahoma. So I think there's some additional training after you get out. If you go into they said the Weather Service pays it.
Okay.
Parents. I believe.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure you don't have to. Once you're hired, they pay for some additional
Some
training.
additional training?
Yeah.
Okay. But actually, if this is what you want to do for your life, you don't care what it costs.
Not everybody wants TV. There's radio.
true.
I have
Yeah.
I have somebody that graduated that's into radio. He doesn't want to. You have to wear a tie. You don't have to dress up with radio. But there's a weather service. There's private industry like a graphics company. You can go out and if a station wants your graphics, you can go on and do a demo.
Oh, okay.
And then research. You just you study. Is the Earth warming up or is it getting? Why? You do
Yeah.
a lot of.
See whether.
But you do need a master's. That's where the math comes in. So
Okay.
you do need an additional 2 years after for research.
So there's a lot. We're lucky you stayed with us. A lot of other places you might have gone off to. So.
Well, I could have left New England when I got laid off in 2009, but I said, why start somewhere else? So
Yep.
everybody knew
Yep.
me, and I still did some weather. It
And it
wasn't
paid
like
off.
Manchester and National Telegraph, and also I still do radio, WCAP 980 AM in Lowell.
Good,
So
good,
that was
okay.
something it's not like I got laid off and left the weather.
No, I
And
knew
that-
you were still out there and you were
Yeah.
still keeping busy. Yeah.
And
like
that,
I say, I
and
know
that
you
helped
went-
too, going back
Yeah.
now. This
Yeah,
last
because
time
you
I
didn't
went.
have that gap.
That's right. Because
yeah.
people can forget quick if you're not.
This is true. Yeah. So a lot of what you've done with yourself is really some really good marketing and branding, right?
That's right.
And that's important too. And I bet that's something that people don't think about when they're getting into the business.
That's right.
Yeah. And that happens a lot of times. People don't think too much about what they, you may do it, and you may do it well, but are you actually letting everybody know that? Do people understand what goes into it and who you are? And, so what would, you must have some stories from kids that you, when going into the elementary schools and talking to the kids.
Nah.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't have to give us names,
giving the weather, how they reacted.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them used to laugh.
Yeah.
Some would, like because they say, "Oh, what's the?" But I think they all knew. They all wanted to know what. Like on Monday, they'd ask what the weekend's gonna be.
Okay, see if you could get it right. Test you a little bit. Yeah. Kids were like that. Yeah.
But they knew I wanted to take that road, and
Yeah. So but I'm talking more about when you went down to the elementary school when you were already a meteorologist.
oh.
Yeah. Those
Usually,
kids.
they have a lot. The younger grades, I notice, has more questions. They're curious.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
The older students, when you get in middle school, they're afraid. My friends, if
Is
they
that
ask
popular?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of them know how you predict the weather. And
And
that's one of the big questions. How do you know what the weather's going to be?
Yeah.
I used to get that a lot, especially in the younger grade.
Well, I know we always heard about it when you showed up at North School.
Yeah.
We always heard about it. So I know you were a big hit with the kids. when you were doing that. And are you still doing that?
I'll be going back out again eventually. I'm gradually, I'm starting with the charities, and we'll be starting schools down the road.
Okay, sounds good. Now, have you ever thought about doing a show, kind of maybe telling people how they could figure out what the weather's going to be?
We'd probably have to be a sponsored half hour. I'm thinking that, that's something I'm thinking for down the road.
Also, you know what I'm wondering is, been a lot of talk in the last few months about what kind of a winter we're going to have. And people are looking at the Farmer's Almanac, of course, because we've had that forever, and saying it's predicting a really cold and snowy winter. How accurate is the Farmer's Almanac?
I wouldn't say they're not accurate at all. Sometimes they've been close on storms, but I don't go long range. I've seen some of their forecasts, and you really got to be careful with that because they're going out a year ahead of time. Just look, for example, I'll take you this. We heard that there's a doctor, he has a doctorate in meteorology. That's above a master's out in Colorado State. He predicts the hurricanes. He had above normal. We were getting dry air and dust coming off the Sierra Desert, and that was suppressing this. That was causing the cumulonimbus clouds to not develop. That's why we have, so far, I don't know what the, hurricane season peaks in September. It's been kind of a quiet season because of that dry air and dust. And then we're getting the strong winds aloft shearing. That breaks apart it's like if you have cotton candy, you shred it off. That's what happens with strong winds with a cumulonimbus cloud. Breaks it up. The development. So we call that shearing. And convection, the thunderstorms cloud weakens. That weekend, you need thunderstorms to get the system to become a tropical depression, then a storm, and then a hurricane. So that prediction, really months before of above really hasn't worked. That's why I don't really like to go long range. You have to be careful. It could turn out to be a milder. We have this subtropical high pressure now off the southeast coast. Last year that kept rebuilding. And if we see that, Thanksgiving or into November, it may weaken. And last year we saw it weaken and come back. So that can steal some cold air. You to get a lot of snow and make the skiers happy, you need cold weather to lock in. If that high pressure keeps rebuilding this winter, the cold air is not. You may get cold for a couple days and then it warms up, moderates. That doesn't make skiers happy. If you're a skier or somebody watching, they want the cold air to lock in after Thanksgiving through January. That means no warm-ups, and that's tough. With that subtropical high, it's still out there, even this month,
Well, they may use computer models these days, but the Farmer's Almanac certainly didn't use them in the old days.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't want to tell people I agree with it,
because
if that subtropical high pressure keeps rebuilding, we're going to see ups and downs this winter. You may get a snowstorm, and then it moderates and it melts. But to have a good ski season, you want the cold air to lock in, and hopefully it does. Our coldest month is January of the year, and the hottest month is July. But
how far out do you think can be predicted with some kind of accuracy?
Well, I usually at the station I do an 8-day forecast in Derry. I started with a 5, then we went to 7. I do. When you get up beyond 48 hours, it becomes an outlook, Dottie. A 3-day outlook, and your accuracy tends to go down with time. So. The 8th day can change. Even day 3 can sometimes.
So you're definitely not going to look a year out and tell us what's going to happen.
It's because look what happened with the hurricane. He predicted a lot of storms earlier this year, and it's been quite. To know something like dust and dry air, to know that months ahead, it's taking a chance.
I'm going to ask you about something that people talk about all the time these days, which is the global warming. Is that really happening? Is it happening because of Mother Nature or because of man?
I'm not really a research meteorologist. Some research meteorologists say the Earth is, we are seeing, and that may be why this subtropical ridge keeps rebuilding. And, September was quite warm, and, and we haven't really, it was the end of September. Many areas haven't had a killing frost yet, which in southern New Hampshire, that's kind of late now.
Poor man's fertilizer, right?
It's tough to say. It depends on I'm not a research meteorologist. Some say global warming is real, and others say there's no such. Man-made can't affect. But
and you hear a lot that we're going to have these ups and downs anyway with the ice age, and
we
had one, they'll come back.
If we see extremes more on the weather, and the ice, if it is continuing to melt, it may be more hot down the road to dispute that there is such. More people might say there is, but. you have people, it's two-sided, and I'm not a research meteorologist, but, it can cause extremes, and we're seeing a stronger jet stream now in the summer.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, I used to put the jet stream in Canada. It would stay there from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Now you're seeing, there's some researchers say if there is such a thing as climate change, it causes a stronger jet stream in the summer. If you get a stronger jet stream in the summer, it's even stronger in the winter because you have more mixing between the colder air and the poles coming to New England down by Aruba where it's hot. So in the wintertime, you get more contrast and you get a stronger jet stream and more large, intense storms.
Okay.
But if there is such a thing as climate change, we're seeing a stronger jet stream than we used to in the summer. So whether that's attributed to, you'd have to talk to a research.
Yeah, I think it's hard too because people go out and do the research and one comes back and says it's going to be this way and somebody else comes back
well,
and
it's
says
two
it's going to be the
sides.
opposite.
Some say there is such a thing as climate, and as I say, but
Yeah.
we'll have to see if we're getting more extreme weather and we're getting warmer winters. It's going to be hard to dispute that maybe there is such a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not really, privy because my job is just to predict the day-to-day weather.
Well, I know I've lived in New England all of my life. And I kind of like the fact that I wake up in the morning and I'm not sure what the weather is going to be. So the only time I really check is if there's something weather specific. And if I need to be outside, I'm going to check and see whether or not my cookout's going to get rained on or not. But being in New England, we just never know what's going to happen. So, but it's been 30 years for you. 30 years. Would you have done it all over again?
I don't think I go through the school. It's tough. It's a tough program now at Linden State.
Yeah.
They've added. You have to do I think it's a senior paper. You have to do like a thesis, before you graduate. So
So they've made it even harder
I've talked to
since
some
you've been
students.
there,
Oh
huh?
yeah, it's a lot
Yeah.
more chance. The math is tough and the classes are tough. Even once you get through the math, you have to do that paper to graduate now in front of the professors. So
But if you weren't going to be a weatherman, would you be something else?
I don't think so.
Can't think of anything else. No, it's
No.
because you love it, and that's what comes across.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people love to watch you predicting the weather, because you do love it, and that shows. And I think that's great. Now, like I said, you've been doing this 30 years. I've been doing,
You were a long time, huh? Yeah.
I've been doing this since 1985. I started with my first show in 1985 as a producer and didn't have to be in front of the camera then. And I remember you coming to the schools way back then when my daughter was in
Well,
elementary
before the
school.
I used to do the Daniel Webster Boy Scouts Council with
That
the high school.
too, yeah.
That was cut with the cuts,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
was when I first started.
Yeah, I do remember that as well.
So it's been a lot when I look back and.
It has. It really has. So now, Chris, did you have something to do? Yeah. Okay, I didn't want to hold you up. Okay. I just think it's amazing these days to find somebody who's been doing the same basic thing for 30 years, has not lost their enthusiasm for it, regardless of the ups and downs that happen.
Because I wanted to say,
You've just,
and some of my people that graduate meteorology may not be doing weather to this day. I'm sure some have gotten out.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, and especially these days, so often what happens is somebody graduates with a degree in one thing,
And they're doing
and they're doing something entirely different. So you started from a little kid being interested, and you stuck it through the whole way.
Yeah.
And
gone
you're
through ownership
still-
change, and then that comes with that's part of TV.
The
not
business end of things, everything.
Yeah,
You
I
have,
know.
you're a survivor. Is there a song about that?
I don't.
I think, do we have that song? Okay, Chris? Is Chris back? Chris. I would like the crew to join us.
Oh.
And Al, that means you have to lock the camera down and come on in. And maybe, is he coming? And I think our audio person should come in. And I think our other camera person should come up. I promise not to make you sing. Okay, they're always afraid I'll make them do something embarrassing. So we have, we don't normally get to have the crew on this side of the camera, but we have our director, who is also Al Seitbeck, camera person, Christopher Giorgio, And we have Mark Elliott behind me, also doing camera today, and Helen, who many of you may know as our volunteer coordinator, and also a great audio person. She does audio for us a long time. And we all want to say congratulations
Thank you.
on 30
Thank-
years. It's miraculous
Thank
that
you,
somebody
Dottie.
can survive in one business for 30 years.
Thank you.
We love it, okay? And I know the rest of the state's congratulating you too.
Thank
I mean, PBS has First Weatherby. The cable cast
Yeah.
and broadcast
Yeah.
has you.
Thank you, Dottie.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
30 great years.
Thank you very much.
Is there
Um,
anything else you'd like to say?
I'd just like to thank all the people of New Hampshire for watching me all these years. I hope you continue watching on WBIN TV 18. And that's channel 18 on Comcast, and it's 811. DirecTV is channel 50. Places like Merrimack, it's 6 and 703, because we had
It's
Adelphia.
different,
I'm not
yeah,
going to get
yeah.
into that. But I know the ownership was 18 everywhere. But when I first went back, I told them
Doesn't happen, yeah.
6703. I have it
Yeah.
on 703, and I
Yeah,
live in
yeah.
Merrimack, New Hampshire.
And this is
so-
what I was talking about when I said he knows how to market himself. He's letting you know where he is,
Well,
and that's
channel
what it's all about.
and also I should say we do a Facebook page on WBINTV.com,
Okay.
and
All
you
right.
can hear my weather on Frank FM and also
Mm-hmm.
WJYY. I'm doing some of the stations that Bill and
Fantastic.
Vinny has bought. So.
Okay, so don't tell me you can't find out what the weather's going to be tomorrow.
1063. I'm sure now that you're retired, you can listen to the radio.
I can. I have a little bit of time on my hands
That's it.
sometimes, so that's great. I want to thank you for watching, and I'm hoping that you enjoyed getting to know Al a little bit better, and it would be really great if we have him for another 30 years. And please let me know if you would like to talk on One Voice at a Time and share what interests you and whatever is important to you. Just let us know. Thank you.